here at the Eastern Gate in Jerusalem, and this is the Eastern Gate. Most Christians know this is the place that Jesus will come.
For nearly 5 centuries, the Eastern Gate has remained closed by deliberate human hands gripped by prophecy. It looks like nothing but an arch of pale limestone, bricked tight with sandstone, staring east toward the Mount of Olives. Locals call it the Gate of Mercy. Others call it cursed. Several stories speak of those who tried to breach it. Soldiers who heard whispers in dead air. Architects who felt their tools tremble for no apparent reason. Some said they heard the stones weeping, and no one ever broke through. But now, for the first time in 480 years, someone is looking again. And this time, what they're seeing has no explanation. What if the gate wasn't shut to keep something out, but to delay the return of the one who once walked through it? Before we face what lies behind the gate, we need to understand why the world once closed it and who it was meant to stop. The Golden Gate sits quietly on the eastern wall of Jerusalem's old city, caught between prayer and politics. To tourists, it's just another relic. To believers, it's the gate of prophecy. In 1541, Sultan Suleiman the Magnificent ordered it sealed to block a very specific figure. Jewish scripture had spoken for centuries about this. The Messiah would one day enter Jerusalem through this gate. Suleiman wasn't Jewish, but he understood the weight of prophecy and sealed the gate. And to make sure no holy man could approach it, he buried the land before it under a Muslim cemetery. Ezekiel 44:2 states the reason. This gate is to remain shut, because the Lord, the God of Israel, has entered through it. It is to remain shut. That was the law. That was the fear. And for generations, it held until recently. Strange pulses started flickering beneath the stone. Energy, seismic waves without quake. A whisper of movement behind a gate meant to stay still. Local archaeologists ran early scans. The data came back blurred, interference, or something stronger. Then a group of non-pilgrims arrived from Europe. Scientists, non-believers, skeptics, and what they found shouldn't have existed, at least not now. At first it was just a harmless shift in temperature, but when thermal drones flew over the old city, analysts noticed something strange. The Eastern Gate was colder, markedly colder than the rest of the surrounding wall, and not just by a few degrees. It was as if something beneath the surface was absorbing heat, pulling energy inward like breath against glass. A stillness and vacuum that was almost alive. That alone raised eyebrows. But then came the light. A team from Tel Aviv began a routine UV scan, non-invasive, purely for historical documentation. What they expected were weathered contours and structural inconsistencies. But what they got was radiation. Faint but consistent streaks of ultraviolet light bleeding through microscopic fissures in the stone. Radiation that wasn't visible to the human eye. Radiation that wasn't supposed to exist at all. And yet, there it was, behaving like a patterned pulse instead of natural emission. The same kind of UV spectrum used in forensics, in high-frequency laser research, in technology designed to reveal hidden truth. But there were no devices or power sources, just the gate. They scanned again. This time, the system glitched, frequencies bent. Datasets came back warped, like the signal had been intercepted mid-air, then twisted and returned. One technician described it as trying to scan a mirror, only the mirror was scanning back. Then came the shutdown. Permits were suddenly revoked, research halted. Authorities cited heritage protection, but sources close to the investigation whispered something else, something closer to fear. Foreign researchers were quietly told to leave. But the clampdown wasn't just political. Religious figures too stepped in. Not with outrage, but with urgency. The message was clear. Don't open it. This gate wasn't just a relic, it was a seal. And seals are not broken without consequence. Then, in a quiet synagogue near the Temple Mount, a caretaker stumbled on a glass-encased scroll during renovations. The parchment was brittle, the language Aramaic. It spoke of a gate, long sealed, and of a light, not firelight, not sunlight, but light from the place of waiting. A sign, a signal. But perhaps the most disturbing clue wasn't written, it was painted. A 3rd century mural, uncovered behind layers of plaster, depicted a glowing gate at night. 3 robed men stood watching from a rooftop, postures solemn, Hebrew script on their garments. But none of them had eyes. The artist had painted light, but left the watchers blind. By early 2024, the religious tension around the gate had become a storm cloud, but it didn't stop the science. An independent research team, based in Zurich and composed mostly of secular physicists and geologists, received anonymous backing to perform a final high-resolution scan. This time, they didn't use standard radar. They used a rare form of ultraviolet laser mapping, designed to read the density of sealed structures without disturbing a single stone. What returned wasn't structural. It wasn't a tunnel or a cavity. It was a shape. Inside the sealed gate, they detected what looked like a vertical imprint, faint but unmistakable. It wasn't carved. It wasn't drawn. It was as if a human figure had been scorched into the air behind the stone. A 3-dimensional silhouette, negative space, like someone had stood inside the wall and left behind their shadow. One of the researchers compared it to the Shroud of Turin, but unlike the cloth, this figure hadn't faded. It was still active. The laser picked up residual energy radiating from the void, faint but real, and it was warm. One of the team members, a skeptical geologist, touched the screen as the scan ran in real time. "It's like it's still happening," she whispered. "Like we didn't catch an imprint from the past, but something ongoing." It didn't take long for panic to ripple through the group. One researcher, who had dismissed the religious theories from the start, packed his equipment and left the same night. Another sent a single frame of the scan to an encrypted contact in Vatican City. No caption or message, just the figure, glowing and negative. Within 12 hours, the Vatican sealed 3 of its private digital archives. For 72 hours, nothing was uploaded, nothing was downloaded, access denied, and when the Vatican received the image, they locked their archives for 72 hours. But the phenomenon wasn't limited to screens and data. For 3 consecutive nights, at exactly 3:17 a.m., ultraviolet radiation spiked in the immediate vicinity of the Eastern Gate. There were no city lights or artificial triggers, just silent pulses that seemed measures and rhythmic. 3:17 a.m., the traditional hour of Christ's final prayer at Gethsemane. On the 4th night, the pulses stopped, but the neighborhood's stray animals never returned. To this day, the eastern quadrant of the old city remains strangely quiet after dark. Cameras flicker, lights buzz, and not a single bird nests near the sealed stones. But the signature they found on the wall matched another, buried 400 miles away. While global attention zeroed in on Jerusalem, something older, and perhaps equally unsettling, surfaced far from the Holy Land. Deep in the sands of Saudi Arabia, 9 meters below an untouched stretch of desert, a German-led archaeological team uncovered a rectangular stone unlike anything in their archives. Perfectly smooth, almost unnaturally symmetrical. It wasn't weathered like the others nearby. It hadn't been shaped by time. It had been placed intentionally, and at its center was a glyph, circular, sharp-lined, and deeply etched. To the untrained eye, it might have looked ornamental, but one glance from a linguistics specialist sent a chill through the camp. It was the exact same symbol etched into the stone frame above Jerusalem's Golden Gate. Not similar, but identical. The same angles, same curvature, same concentric halo-like rings. But the language around it was unreadable and ancient. Yes, but from no known family. No roots in Aramaic, Akkadian, Egyptian, or Sumerian. Nothing matched. It was just untranslatable. One of the geochemists, a staunchly non-religious lady known for her skepticism, unexpectedly left the site within 48 hours. When pressed, she admitted to hearing a phrase in her head, over and over, especially at night. "He passed once, he passes again." And she wasn't alone. 2 others quietly withdrew from the expedition in the days that followed. It described 2 gates, one of matter and one unseen, a physical door and a mirrored one not made of stone. Then, in a cave deep in the highlands of northern Ethiopia, a faded wall painting was brought to light during a dig for unrelated Christian relics. It was crude, primitive, but unmistakable. The same circular glyph, the same symbol from Jerusalem from Saudi Arabia. Carbon dating pinned the painting at 400 BCE. And there is no recorded cultural overlap that could explain it. No trade, war, or migration paths. And when the markings were scanned, they pulsed in the same frequency. That's not metaphor. When hit with high-frequency radar, both the Saudi tablet and the gate's frame emitted identical vibration patterns, too low to hear, too faint to see. But they responded, as if they were alive. Then, silence. Within weeks, video logs from the Saudi dig vanished from university servers. The Ethiopian cave's digital archive were pulled offline. Maintenance. It never returned. One researcher claimed he was offered 6 figures by a private security firm. Not the government or military, but he refused. The forum where he posted that? Gone. Erased. No backups found. And just as panic set in, the Vatican finally broke its silence, but only behind closed doors. For nearly 5 centuries, Jerusalem's Golden Gate has remained sealed, not damaged or forgotten. Sealed, intentionally, permanently, by the command of Ottoman Sultan Suleiman in 1541. He didn't do it for aesthetics. He did it because of fear, a deep ancient fear passed down in whispers. According to Jewish tradition, this eastern gate was the prophesied entry point of the coming Messiah. Suleiman, hoping to block the fulfillment of that prophecy, bricked it shut. He even placed a Muslim cemetery in front of it, believing it would spiritually deter any Jewish holy man from ever passing through. But prophecy doesn't yield to bricks. Ezekiel wrote, "The glory of the Lord came into the temple by way of the gate which faces east, and the gate shall be shut, because the Lord, the God of Israel, has entered by it." Zechariah foresaw it too. On that day, his feet shall stand on the Mount of Olives, which faces Jerusalem on the east. And in Revelation, the moment the final gate opens, comes after the shaking begins, and now, the shaking has begun. That same untranslatable symbol, the one unearthed beneath Saudi sands, painted before Christ in an Ethiopian cave, and etched into the sealed face of Jerusalem's gate, has begun reappearing in modern satellite images, glowing faintly from within Peru's Nazca lines, hidden in the contours of a Norwegian fjord. It's neither forged nor planted, but revealed, as if some ancient fingerprint is rising to the surface. High-frequency radar shows the same pulse signature across each site, matched harmonics, identical waveforms, as if the symbols are sounding off each other, or waiting for a signal. And then there's the calendar. According to rabbinical scholars, the year 5786, set to begin in just 7 months, marks the start of a prophesied season of return, a time when the veil lifts, when the gate is no longer just a wall but a threshold. And now, the Golden Gate has begun to hum as if it was never meant to be sealed forever, just sealed until someone or something was ready. And in Jerusalem, where that hum began, the second gate just opened. Why not click the video on your screen to see where this leads next?